Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Nick Kleinhenz, who is a good buddy of ours, a good friend of mine. He shares some very funny stories from his tailgating experiences at Ohio State games, along with shares a few stories about me being overly competitive in the past. So, hope you enjoy this episode of
Tell Us a Good Story.
Hello, friends. We are excited for this episode of Tell Us a Good Story. Are you ready for this stuff?
This is happening, people.
I've actually been looking forward to this all day. I've been
Yep.
texting my buddy back and forth. So, friends, today's guest is a man who was born and raised in the great state of Ohio, but now resides, I'll call it as an expat, down in Knoxville, Tennessee. A finance professional who got his MBA from the Ohio State University, and most importantly, a former workout partner of yours truly. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our podcast, Van Wert's finest, Nick Kleinhenz.
Woohoo! Love this.
How we doing,
Hello,
guys?
buddy.
We are so excited. And you didn't mention he is my best friend's husband.
That's very true.
My best friend. So my girlfriends and I grew up. They were twins, Sarah and Amanda, and we grew up best friends. And lo and behold, she married this guy. How crazy is that?
So Nick and I somehow started up a conversation, and we started working out together. And it was classic, right? Nick was an awesome workout partner. We ended up doing a lot of probably talking, as much talking as we did working out.
Let me interject here because I remember I'm a workout girl. 5 a.m. I am up 6 days a week. These two, I constantly remember me getting done with my workout, jumping in the shower, and this guy's still asleep. And I'm like, why aren't you at the gym with Nick? Oh, he canceled on me, so I just decided to sleep in. And I'm like, well, why didn't you still go to the gym? He's like, well, Nick's not going to be there,
Why would
so
I do that?
why would I do that?
Why would I do that?
And then there'd be a time.
Let me cut in here. I think there's
It went
maybe
both
a
ways.
discrepancy there. I think maybe Kevin told you that Nick did not go to the gym, but I recall many a times being at the gym, getting a text from Kevin at about 6:40 or so, saying that he wasn't going to make it that day.
Nick,
So-
I truly probably agree with that he would say that, but I think more times than not, it was definitely you at the gym and him sleeping in.
Nick, yeah. It went both ways, right, with Nick.
But more so you than Nick.
But Nick and I, gosh, we talked a lot during these conversations, right? And so Nick's one of those guys that,
I mean, during the workouts?
yeah, during the workouts, he's always making fun of you, trying to make you laugh. And he thought it'd be funny to always try to get me to laugh while I'm getting ready to bench or whatever. And then,
Safe. That's safe, right? I love that.
and so he just constantly, yeah, he's like constantly yelling, like, dude, I'm not going to lift until you shut your pie hole, because he's constantly making me laugh, constantly. And so, he's one of those guys that he's a great friend, always making fun of you. And it's like guys, right? You joke around with each other. It doesn't mean anything, right? But he just loves to poke fun at anything. He's, I guess, one of those guys.
Well, I always remember Kevin was just a hair bit stronger than I am. Just a little bit, not a ton, just a little bit. So I was always trying to keep up with all his sets and number of reps he was able to do. So that was the biggest challenge for me, was trying to keep up with him.
So Nick, though, got to the point where he would see people in the gym, though, doing these crazy funky workouts, right? Whether like burpees or like yoga poses with weights in their hands and stuff, or crazy cardio workouts, and he was always like, that's what we need to do. Like, no, we don't. That's not what we need to do, Nick. And
Why pay for a trainer when you can just follow what everybody else is doing, right?
So I was more interested in working upper body, not doing the crazy leg workouts with Nick or doing crazy cardio. I'd rather be doing racquetball for my cardio. So Nick, the one year, decided he was going to get a personal trainer. Okay, I think it was at LA Fitness or whatever. So it was one of those New Year's specials. Nick signs up for the personal trainer. And again, I told him, like, listen, you're not hurting my feelings at all.
Worst decision ever.
Because I'll be playing racquetball while he's with his personal trainer. So so I show up, I'm playing racquetball with like Dwayne, and his personal trainer would show up sometimes on time, right? Sometimes a few minutes late. And the one day, now keep me honest, Nick. The one day he shows up like a few minutes late, starts talking to Nick upstairs, and Nick's doing this crazy stuff upstairs, and he tells Nick, "Hey, I'll be right back." Gives him like a couple things to do. I'll be right back. And so Nick watches him walk away, grabs a magazine, goes into the locker room. And then Nick only has like a half-hour session, I think, with these trainers.
Yeah.
Max, okay. And his trainer comes back 15 minutes later, had gone to the bathroom, and like wasted half of Nick's workout that he had paid for.
He essentially told me to do 10 squats, then stop, then 9 squats, then 8 squats, then 7 squats, then 6 squats. So yeah, I paid for him to pretty much tell me to squat up and down for 10 minutes while he went out and did whatever he was doing.
Do you remember asking me when we were at LA Fitness you really wanted to play basketball? You asked me to play basketball with you after my workout. You had kind of like gotten some people together, and I went out to play, and that woman ended up guarding me. Do you remember this story?
I do remember this story. I heard about the myth, the legend of Kevin Mason at Ohio Northern, so I wanted to witness this in reality on a basketball court. So, what I recall was it was a pickup game, 5-on-5 in a gym, and me and Kevin pretend to be former athletes, in some shape, but we get out there and we're playing, and we're not up and down the court 2 times, and Kevin gets hurt. And
he's not lying. I wish he was lying. He's not.
This woman that chose to guard Kevin, maybe she saw, she wanted to, guard, maybe one of the easier guys on the court. I don't know, but she picked Kevin, and the second time down the court, she gives Kevin a little shot to the eye, and that's it. Kevin's done. That's it. He walks off the court, and now we have 9 guys.
So
all these stories I hear about Kevin and his illustrious basketball career, I got 10 to 15 seconds worth of it.
So Steph, I wish you were making this up. So this woman decides to guard me. I'm like, what is this? Right? Why? Okay, sure, we're playing this. So, like Nick said, second time down, I'd stolen a pass or something. So I go up for a layup, and this woman comes out of nowhere and goes to swipe at the ball and like try to steal it from me as I'm going for a layup. Well, when she swiped at the ball, she poked me right in the eye. Okay? Pokes me in the eye, knocks my contact out, and I'm just like, oh, I can't see. And Nick comes over, and of course, like under his breath, starts calling me names and stuff. He's like, dude, I can't take you anywhere. Are you kidding me? Are you going to let that woman do that to you? And I'm like, Nick, I can't see. Like everyone's like looking for the contact, like on the floor. And literally, it's been 30 seconds into this game, if 30 seconds, right? And this woman, gives me an eye jammy right in the face. And so I have to quit. And then Nick's like, okay, now we got 9 guys. That's great. What are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to try to go home. So I drove home with one eye closed. And then I texted him, I think when I got home, that I was okay.
I'm sure you were concerned, Nick.
Yeah.
I was very worried.
Yeah. But Nick was so mad. It was pretty funny. Nick was so mad. Like, are you kidding me? Really? Like, you get hurt within the first 30 seconds?
That's all you got.
Oh, so bad. So Nick, of course, he's invited us to tailgate with him at Ohio State in the past. And there's a couple really good stories, Nick, from when you were tailgating earlier, I guess pre-kids, right? When it was a little easier to do that. Tell Steph the story of when you were tailgating, like your setup, when the reporter came and wanted to interview you and your buddies on live TV here in Columbus.
Well, let me start with the Tailgate Band.
Okay, yes, please.
A little background on the band. So we, me and some college buddies, 7 of us got together, and we bought a 1991 Chevy conversion van, and maroon, mind you. And I remember calling my wife, I think she was my wife at the time, Amanda, and saying, "Hey, good news, honey, we bought a van."
How much did you pay for that? Do you remember?
I do remember.
$500?
A little bit more. It was $800
Per person or
no.
total?
This was total. Sight unseen, $800. It was an old fishing van that these guys used to go fishing with. So we got an $800 van. And I told my wife we have this van, and she's like, it was early in our marriage, and I wasn't really sure, we were supposed to ask permission to purchase vehicles. Right. So we got this van, and I hadn't seen it when we bought it. Somebody else was there making the transaction, but I got to go down and see it a couple days later, and first sight, quickly realized why this thing was $800. Just what you can imagine, old, 8-10 passenger conversion van. Well, good coat of paint, tricked out the inside a little bit, and we had what we called the silver bullet.
Nice.
And 50 games later and tons of memories. We had a great time up there tailgating many, many times.
How did it end up breaking down? So what was the 50th game then? Like how did it end?
Well, it really came down to start having kids.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't use it as much, but it got sold to a really good family, a band. These guys that had a band, they bought it, right. And I still remember seeing it drive away.
Now, did you at least make your money back, or?
You know what? I think we weren't too far off from it.
That's good.
There, but we might have put a little bit into it along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So when you're tailgating, you had this situation where I remember you telling me back when we were working out of you getting interviewed on live TV that weekend. So tell Steph about that story.
Well, you know how in the tailgate lots, many times there's the on-site reporters that are walking around. Well, we were always trying to get these guys to come over and talk to us. Well, finally, one game, this lady, I can't remember her name, she came over and she's like, "Hey, we're going to do a little 30-second spot at your tailgate." And we're like, "Great, what do we do?" She's like kind of kicking around some ideas on how this 30 seconds is going to go. One of the guys had bought a hot dog roller. So we would fire that thing up and, we would cook 10 to 12 hot dogs at a time on this thing. Just have it going all the time.
In this roller, it's like what you have at Speedway, right? Where it's that box and you've got 10, 12 hot dogs just rotating for hours at a time, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Gas station hot dog roller.
Right.
Well, anyway, so we start the spot, and the whole thing was we're going to pull a hot dog out of the roller, put some ketchup, some condiments on it, hand this off to the reporter. She's going to take a bite, do a quick question, smile, move on. Well, it's going. She's asking a couple questions. We pull it off the roller. We get it all set up. She bites into this, and this hot dog is steaming hot. And she's doing the reverse blow and on live TV. It was great.
She's like back to the studio as her mouth is on fire on live TV, and Nick had literally just handed it to her. Didn't you hand it with like your bare hands too? Like I thought you'd said you'd pulled it off like with your bare hand, and you're like, "Oh man, this puppy's hot." Put it down, just handed it to her.
Into the hot dog bun, yeah.
Right. Oh man. So there was another good story, and I remember just a couple of details that you had told me from a long, long time ago. I think it was the Northwestern game, Nick. Can you tell us that tailgating story? And it was an away game, right?
Yep. Yeah, so a bunch of times if you haven't been to a Ohio State road game, Northwestern's a great one to go to. You can, take the train over or go to a Cubs game beforehand. But we went over there many times. But one of these times we went with a big group. Some of my buddies lived in Chicago at the time, and they got an old school bus. And we took the school bus from Wrigleyville over to Evanston and back. Well, it was one of these games in Evanston where it's freezing cold out. It's right on the lake. It's probably 10 degrees. Well, we go to the game, Ohio State wins. We're all having fun. We're hanging out by the bus afterwards, having a couple of adult beverages. We get all of a sudden the bus driver's like, "All right, time to go." So we hop back in the van, sitting by my wife. It's supposed to be about a 20-minute drive back.
You mean the bus? Not the van, the bus, right?
The bus. We're in a school bus this time.
Yes.
Yep. 20, 30 people in this bus, packed 2 to a seat. So we start the trip back. It's supposed to be 20 minutes, mind you. Well, there's all kinds of traffic. I mean, traffic galore. So about 20, 25 minutes into this trip, I look over at Amanda and I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. She's like, okay, well, we're not moving. I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. She's like, so she's trying to distract me. She's asking me about one of my buddies that didn't go. Like, what was he doing today? And this goes on for, 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm like,
think of anything else.
Honey, it's go time. Like this internal fight that you're having with yourself, like this is happening, and I'm starting to get a little panicky. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm thinking about plan B in my head here, and somebody and a couple of my buddies know, I'm going through this situation here, so they pass up a cup. My wife looks at me and she's like, "Not happening, not going to happen," and she's like, "You're a grown man, hold it." And I'm like, honey, this is happening. You can either be the woman sitting next to the guy that pees his pants on the bus, or you can be the girl sitting next to the guy that pees in a cup on the bus. Make a choice.
Right now, you got about 2 seconds.
Make a choice. Well, I'm not sure if she actually made the choice, but the cup situations happen. We're going to plan B on this thing right now. Well, then I look down, and it happened to be the day that I'm wearing these fancy Express jeans that have buttons not the zipper.
Yes.
So I'm fumbling around trying to get the pants undone. I mean, it's urgent at this point in time. Well, anyways, I finally get it out, and Amanda's holding the cup, and it starts happening. And Amanda's literally sitting there holding the cup, and I'm peeing into the cup on the school bus, and it's filling up slowly towards the top, filling up, and she's like, cut it off. I can't. Well, finally, it gets right to the top. I cut it off, and as soon as that happens, the lights of the school bus come on, and we're there. So everyone's like, "Hey, we made it!" And they look up, and they're like, "Oh." And to make matters worse, I panic, and I just get up, walk off the bus, and my wife is still holding the cup, and she has to carry it off the bus and throw it out. So, needless to say, my name was Pepe for the rest of that trip.
Oh, man. The only thing that would have been worse is if you hit a speed. I thought you were going to say you hit a speed
bump.
That's
what I thought he was going to say.
As soon as he was done.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was going to say.
Oh, your poor wife.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
You got a good one. That's all I got to say. You got a good one.
Nick, I want you to tell the bowling ball story. And I'll set up the context here. So, Steph, this was back when I was working at JP Morgan Chase. And we had a holiday party. There was a guy who had just moved into our department, and he was from India. And so he was actually on my bowling team during this holiday party. And he ended up bowling a 42, which I did not think was even possible, right? But he somehow did it, and so it was a big laugh between all of us at work that he actually bowled a 42. And so the next day, Nick and I were working out at the gym, and I made the comment that this guy on my team bowled a 42 the night before. And so Nick had said that he could bowl a 42 with his foot. And I didn't believe him, right? And again, we're always trying to prove each other wrong. So I put my hand out like, are you going to accept this bet, accept this challenge or not? And so he shook my hand, and I think we bet Chipotle or something. And so, of course, we had to prove it. And this was before kids. So Nick and I then set up a double date with us, you, and his wife Amanda to see if Nick could actually bowl a 42 with his foot. Mm-hmm. And so, Nick, I'll let you take it from there, that experience that night, because it was it was comedy gold for me watching this play out, quite honestly.
Well, we take the ladies out, and I remember it being like really hard to find a bowling alley to actually go to. I don't know if it was like bowling is way more popular than I thought, but anyway, so we show up at this bowling alley, and I'm pretty sure we hadn't told the ladies about this bet situation. But we get our lane, super crowded in there. We're ready to go. And then we kind of tell them, hey, we have this bet. Nick's going to bowl with his foot, and insert eye rolls all over the place. From the
disgusted looks from our wives. Like, we married morons here.
I was like, this is happening. They're really doing this. And I looked at Mandy,
Absolutely.
and she's like, yep, they're going to do it. They're going to do this.
But of course, that didn't stop us one bit. So
no.
I remember trying to figure out what would be the optimal ball size, weight to bowl with your foot, but had no idea. But got up there a little bit nervous at the beginning. Start on the first one. I feel like I'm going to try to kick this ball down the lane, and kicked it. It literally goes probably 2 feet into the gutter, and probably struggled to make it all the way down to the end of the lane.
Yes.
So of course Kevin's, feeling pretty good about himself, ribbing me, going, "Yeah, told you so. This isn't going to happen." But undeterred, you got 19 more balls to roll at that point in time. I'm ready to go. So it took me probably, and at the same time I'm nervous because people are watching us like, what are these morons doing here? And we're worried we're going to get thrown out of this place at some point in time. So eventually the bowling manager or the attendant comes over and he's like, "Hey guys, what's going on here? Why are you using your feet?" Well, we politely articulated the situation and what we were doing, and he walked off, and we were in good shape. But I think it took me, 3 or 4 or 5 frames, and I finally started getting a little bit of a rhythm going on, and I could see Kevin is getting a little bit worried, like, this might actually be a little bit closer than he thought it was going to be.
I might owe Nick a $6 burrito here. This is terrible.
Well, 8 if you get guacamole on there.
Oh,
right?
true. Okay, that's true.
So I think it comes down to, 7th, 8th frame or something like that, and I actually get a spare, like legitimately get a spare with my foot. So all I need to do in the next ball or the next roll or kick, I guess, is get a couple pins, and I'm home free. I'm golden. 43 is in my sights. Well, sure enough, next ball, straight gutter, and the rest is history. I had to buy Kevin Chipotle.
Yes. Good. Comedy gold watching him kick these bowling balls right into the gutter, and to see the disgusted look on you and Amanda's face was like priceless. Like, I know this is stupid, but this is so much fun for me right now with Nick. So that was a pretty fun night, quite honestly, for me personally, to do that.
Still haunts me to this day.
Yes. Yes. So the last thing, I know you have a question for Nick. You wanted Nick to tell a particular story on me.
Well, I want to let the audience know how competitive these two are. I know my husband's competitive. I didn't think anybody would touch him until Nick Kleinhenz entered the scene. And when I say competitive, if they are playing racquetball, or if they are playing tennis, and one of them wins or one of them has a bad shot, one's hitting the tennis ball out of the cage and the other one's breaking their racket. And I'm just like, why do you guys keep playing together? Why do you guys keep doing this? Oh, it's fun. This is a great time. I'm like, all right. Like, it blows my mind. So talk about how competitive Kevin is and vice versa. Just kind of tell a story about the competitiveness between you two.
Well, there's no reason to play, Steph, if you're not going to try to win, right?
Thank you.
I agree, but breaking rackets, drop kicking a basketball, like, you two just go.
We did compete like we were brothers.
You did. Absolutely,
we really did
you did.
It was 8-9 years or whatever.
Fun.
That's true. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Well, let's see here. So tennis with Kevin was always interesting. But first of all, neither Kevin nor I are tennis players by background. Like, we're picking up this game as adults.
Yes.
And so we're not the most skilled tennis players out there, but we're going at it pretty hard. And Kevin's a kind of a guy that when things aren't going good, he's talking to himself. And and I shouldn't really say talking to himself. He's yelling at himself.
Yeah.
And come on, Kevin. He was just giving it to himself. So tennis is supposed to be, I think, a gentleman's sport where you're out there and there's not a lot of back and forth. But when me and Kevin played, there was definitely a lot of back and forth. The net was always at risk. The rackets were always at risk. But it was definitely always a good time playing with him. That's for sure.
Didn't you ask him to play dodgeball one time?
I did ask him to play dodgeball.
Because
And
you should be on a competitive dodgeball league
yeah,
in
I
your
mean,
20s, right? Like,
I
let's
think
do
you
that.
have to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Friday nights at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I
That's
mean,
true, yeah.
what else would our ladies want to do on Friday
Right.
nights at
What?
7 or 8? Then go to the gym and watch their husbands play dodgeball, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
what better sport for two really competitive people to play but dodgeball? You're literally throwing the ball at people. It's great.
Oh man, yeah. You start this, Nick, and I've got a good follow-up story on this. This was good.
Well, I don't really have a lot of experience playing dodgeball, and apparently there are people that do have experience playing
Yes.
dodgeball because we ran into a lot of these
Oh,
teams that apparently have been playing together for many, many years. So we were definitely challenged in this league, but it was fun nonetheless.
so Nick asked me because you needed to back up for your company team, and so Nick had asked me, "Hey, will you sub in this one night?" And so I subbed in, and I don't know if Nick had played or I don't know if he knew what we were getting into, but I remember showing up and all of a sudden we are playing against like a professional dodgeball team, and it was co-ed. The women incredibly aggressive in regards to if they got out, they're slamming the balls on the ground, they're arguing with the referees, and I remember two guys in their team that were throwing these dodgeballs like 90 miles an hour, and so the dodgeballs they were putting their fingers into the ball and throwing it. And so I remember like the first time I'm trying to catch one of these balls and it's a knuckleball. It's like all over the place and there's no way you can catch this when it's coming in that fast. And of course, back then I was still playing softball.
Uh-huh.
So I had a good arm, but what I was throwing across the court was no match for what was coming back this way. So I remember we start playing and immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more intense than what I was expecting, right? And so I look at Nick like, what the frick did you sign me up for here? Because, I mean, the ball, Nick and I are like back against the wall, against the mat, and these balls are just like flying, hitting off the walls, and we're just trying to get our bearings and stuff. And I'm just concerned one of us is going to end up in the hospital taking one of these balls off the face because, I mean, they were coming in hot. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we lost that first match, I remember, pretty quick. And then I think the second match, we started kind of get our bearings, Nick and I, and we were kind of lasting, I think, a little bit longer on our team, quite honestly. But this first team we were playing was no match. And so, again, back then, and I mentioned this on a prior podcast with somebody, how I have this competitive spirit, this competitive beast that comes out of me when someone runs their mouth to me or I feel like I've been wronged in some particular way, okay?
Or beaten.
Or beaten, yes. So in the second game, I remember hitting one of the guys on the other team, like in the leg, and he didn't walk off the court. And there's only one referee, so a lot of the game is kind of like on the honor system, and he didn't walk off the court. So I start yelling at him like, "I got you, I hit you, you're out. Yo, you out." And he's like, "Nope." I'm like, "Dude, I just hit you in the leg." He's like, "Nope." And so then that competitive beast starts to come out. And I remember yelling across the court, "Okay, that's cool. You're like a cat. You got 9 lives. Okay, bro. I see how this works." And so the rest of this game, I'm focused on 2 things. 1, don't get hit in the face by one of these fastballs. 2, I'm going after this guy. Okay? I'm getting him out. Okay? So a minute goes by, I throw another ball, and it's like very obvious. He gets hit in the leg. The official notices it. Hey, you're out. He starts walking out. Well, that wasn't good enough for me. I yell back at him, no. You still have 7 more lives, but no, get back in here. Get back in here. And so Nick, at that point, was like, easy, buddy. Like, calm it down, easy. Like, you just crossed the line into jerk mode. And so Nick, like, calm me down, like, hey, easy, bro. And so I calmed down after that, right? And I think the guy may have given me the number 1 sign after I said that.
I can imagine.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Well, then at the end of the game, I think I asked Nick, hey, as we're going through the handshake line, can you stay behind of me, have my back in case this guy swings at me as we're going through the line, okay? Not that Nick would do anything. Now, knowing Nick better today, he would probably just be watching. He would just be a spectator, like, oh, man, that wasn't good. Like, hey, that wasn't nice, bro. That wasn't nice. I don't. Yeah. So anyhow, I asked Nick, hey, we get in line behind me. He's like, yeah, sure. So we're going through, and this guy, we're going, good game, good game. He puts his hand down, and I like high five air, like good game, and then the next person, good game, good game, good game. So thankfully, he didn't take a swing at me.
All I can think about when Kevin gets in that kind of, what'd you say, animal spirit, competitive. All I can think about is what his dad used to tell him when he was playing basketball. GA.
GA.
Right? GA. And I would use that all the time.
And of course, that stands
sometimes to spur him a little bit when I was doing well in something. And GA, baby, GA.
Which stands for good attitude for those listening at home. So, funny stuff. Well, Nick, I appreciate you joining us on our podcast here, doing us a favor. A lot of these stories I kind of forgot about until like this afternoon. I started trying to kind of brainstorm on some of these. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
You're awesome, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great seeing you guys. I miss you guys so much.
We miss you guys
buddy.
too. Tell your wife I said hi.
Yes.
Will do.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Bye, Nick.
Have a good one.
Listeners, if you like what you just saw, like what you just heard, please go to iTunes, go to YouTube, and subscribe, rate, review this podcast. That's the only way we'll be able to continue to produce this. Where else can they go, Stephanie?
They can go to kevinandsteph.com. That's all I know, though. So, is that it?
You crushed it.
Yes, crushed it.
Thank you, listeners.